Alright, so guess I'll introduce myself. My name is Mike. Probably already know that. My topic is surviving a mega tsunami. More specifically, what would happen if a Hawaiian volcano were to suffer a flank collapse. Basically, just introducing Hawaii is located in the center of the Pacific Ocean, which is the largest ocean basin in the world in terms of width, depth, and it's also the most tectonically active. This would leave Hawaii to be susceptible from large tsunamis generated by undersea earthquakes or volcanic activity around the rim of the basin. As large earthquakes that occur on the islands or flank collapse due to volcanic activity would affect large communities such as Vancouver, LA, Santiago, Tokyo, Melbourne, that are all located around the edge of the Pacific Basin. It just shows you how interconnected these cities are, even though they're separated by thousands and thousands of miles of water. So this second map shows the timing that a tsunami would take if it were to occur off the coast of Chile. It would reach Hawaii in about 14 hours, would reach Tokyo in about 22. Waves are generated from one side of an ocean basin. They travel to the other side. They're blown by the wind. When they travel in open ocean, they travel at constant speeds because there's no friction between the wave and the ground below. When the ocean level starts to drop, the depth of the water starts to drop, the wave speed starts to slow down. The front of the wave slows down before the back of the wave, causing a wall of water to start to form. So the back of the wave then crashes over on top of the wave. And then depending on the underlying geology and the slope of the offshore, it would determine how the waves break and what their impact is on coastal developments. So normal waves are just generated usually by wind, but a tsunami wave is generated by a vertical displacement of water. This will happen in large earthquakes, meteor impacts, or a landslide. A bunch of water is either lifted or dropped, and then will rebound to its natural position, and then that will create like a ripple effect, as seen by that picture. This second diagram shows that how in the open ocean, tsunami waves are also not affected. They travel at constant speeds, but they're much farther apart than normal waves. And as they begin to encounter lower depths of water, they also stack on top of each other and then crash. So major tsunamis can be generated usually at subduction zones because you need the vertical lift in the crust that doesn't happen on transform or convergent faults. So in this diagram, this will show you how the uplift of the seafloor raises the water. But if the crust were to move horizontally next to each other, there would be no uplift. So then there would be no drop in the water, creating a tsunami wave. However, this diagram also shows that there's other ways that a tsunami can be created by a bolide impact or the subsurface or submarine tsunami, as well as volcanic activity. The difference between a tsunami and a mega tsunami is the sheer amount of energy that is released or required to move the amount of water that it does. There are local conditions, such as butcher it. I believe it's Lituya Bay in Alaska, where they had I believe it was a 500-meter wave, someone on the lines of that was created in the bay just because of local conditions. If this were to happen, as soon as that reached open ocean, the wave dissipated and it didn't reach any other parts of the surrounding area. But this absolutely devastated the local conditions there. Due to the severe amount of energy that needs to be released for a mega tsunami wave to be generated, there's only a few instances that could create this amount of energy. One would be a comet strike in an ocean basin. The second one would be a continental shelf flank collapse or a volcanic flank collapse on a seamount or a terrestrial volcano. So if there were to be a mega tsunami caused by flank collapse on a Hawaiian island, local impacts that you would have no time to react. There would be a 500-meter wave based on estimates, be determined on which island released the energy in which direction, and then what other islands were in between you and where the energy was released would determine on the strength, the magnitude, and the timing in between the waves from a tsunami. For regional impacts more around the world, there are tsunami tracking devices that would allow you to basically get a general estimate on when the tsunami would arrive, but local conditions would cause the magnitude to vary even from very, very, very close proximities. Again, with the Lituya Bay, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, in Alaska, if that were to experience a wave coming in instead of out, you would probably have a much, much similar situation. But the wave just a mile up the coast would probably just wash up and then back down the coast. You wouldn't have such a large backwash. So this map down in the bottom right-hand corner shows that flank collapse is not a rare event on the Hawaiian Islands, with over a dozen, I believe there's 17 outlined on this map. And then if you can see, most of the larger ones occur once the islands have moved off of the hotspot, are no longer volcanically active, and have time to cool and subside, while the ones on the main island occur more frequently, but they're usually smaller and have less of a local impact. So like I said, these are not a rare instance. These occur very geologically frequently in terms of time, but in terms of human perception, they're very infrequent. And in terms of a spatial scale, they do happen around the world. Like I said, all you need is a volcano, a seamount, or even continental shelf could collapse and cause a flank collapse, or could cause a tsunami. This is an example of La Palma volcano in the Canary Islands, and then that is a completely different hazard that would affect the eastern coast as opposed to the western coast of the United States, and then you would also affect northern Africa, most of northeastern South America, and most of western Europe. So I don't know where it was. That literally cut out on my last slide, unfortunately. Basically, survivability depends on how much time and warning you would be given. If there was ample time and warning, I believe that you would be able to survive. But if you would consider this a local tsunami, if you lived on the Hawaiian Islands, it would be absolutely decimated, unless you were in a lucky situation where you happen to be high enough on one of the islands, then you would be absolutely wiped out. But because of tsunami mapping technology advancements in today's society, I do believe that majority of people would be able to avoid this disaster. And in the end, I wouldn't consider it an apocalyptic event, even though it would cause a ton of death and destruction, specifically if it were to hit a major metropolitan area. But I believe that whatever society got decimated would be able to overcome the occurrence, as it was only a one-time event, and most likely most of the country wouldn't even be affected. So I think that's it.